Okay, Batman number 17. Here we go. The final issue that all of this has been building up to. All of Batman's allies have been abducted, somehow, and Batman has finally shown what happened to them all. And because simply turning the Joker into Leatherface wasn't enough, now they're ripping scenes directly out of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
That's crazy! You gotta make us stop!
Joker points out that the Bat family is rigged to go up in flames if Batman tries to get out of his seat, forcing Batman to remain still. He then ushers in a Jokerized Alfred and instructs him to remove everyone's hood. Under their hoods, we see that all of their heads are wrapped up in bloody bandages. And we're left wondering, what is under these silver platters that the Joker's been showing off? Alfred removes their lids, one by one, and we see their severed faces sitting in buckets of ice. Oh my god. All it took was one single splash page for this story to suddenly get awesome! Okay, so the Joker hasn't been killing the Bat family, nor did he ever intend to. Instead, he opts for this, which will either ruin their personal and crime-fighting lives forever, or even if they do get their faces reattached, they'll be traumatized or hospitalized for a long enough time for the Bat family to fall apart. That is the death of the family right there! Yes! Joker starts to monologue again about how much Batman really loves him, and that's why he'll never kill him. And the awesomeness of this scene starts to decline with this exchange, since, well, if the Joker's already convinced that the Batman will never kill him, then what's the point of trying to push him into homicidal rage by removing his family? Batman gets up out of his chair and the whole place lights up, but Batman, being Batman, throws an explosive at the ceiling and it starts to flood. Nobody knows these caves better than me. How did you even know where you were? The Joker never told you! Batman unties Damian and removes his bandages, and he still has his face? They all still have their faces? What?! I don't believe it! I just don't believe it! The Joker has been putting up this elaborate scheme to destroy Batman's allies, and after all of this, the absolute worst thing that he does is just kind of screw with them a little? No deaths, no mutilations, no nothing? How was any of this supposed to kill the family? I know that the Joker can sometimes find a greater laugh in letting his victims live, but at least he leaves them with something to remember him by! Batman goes after him, and the two-headed lion cub from Batman number 13 explodes with Joker gas. So the Joker has the skills and resources to plant a small bomb into the head of a lion cub, and to do it in such a way so that not only is the poor animal still alive, but he's still perfectly functioning, and no one would even notice that the poor thing was actually altered in any way. So why the hell didn't you just plant bombs into everybody's heads?! Batman chases Joker to a waterfall, and he starts to taunt the Joker with how he's actually discovered who he really is while he's been gone. But before he can say anything more, Joker breaks out of Batman's grip and plummets to his death that anyone with a brainstem knows didn't actually kill him. Meanwhile, we see that despite being Jokerized and trying to kill each other, the Bat family is strong enough to overcome their own madness, and they calm down enough to stop fighting each other. We later find Bruce Wayne waiting on Alfred as he makes his recovery, and he reveals to him that he actually went to see Joker in Arkham several years ago. He shows Joker the card that he found on the Batboat, and Joker looks back to see the card, but quickly turns away again before he can see who's holding it. This convinces Bruce that the Joker would never be interested in learning who's really under the mask, since it would ruin his fun. And that by itself isn't exactly a bad line of reasoning. Except, how the hell did Joker involve all of your family's friends and loved ones if he doesn't know or have any intention of knowing their secret identities? But that's neither here nor there, since that decent line of reasoning is ruined by this line of reasoning. I truly believe that if I did it, if I killed Joker, Gotham would just send me someone worse. Maybe even send him back, but worse than before. I know how it sounds, but... You know, in response to that one line of dialogue, I was going to skim through all of my Batman stories that have the Joker in them, And I was actually going to count how many victims have actually fallen prey to the Joker. Purely for the sake of asking, really, Bruce? You really think that someone can go along and do something worse than that? Really? But then it suddenly occurred to me that I don't have to do that. Why? Because he regularly deals with Ra's al Ghul, a guy who kills billions of people at a time, or at least tries to, and Batman seems to deal with him just fine. Bruce proceeds to call the family together so we can talk about what went on and why they have nothing to worry about, but they all bail out for one excuse or another. And that's the death of the family right there. Batman's protégés, who have seen and encountered death and torture in too many ways fathomable for the human mind, some of whom have actually been killed themselves, are suddenly freaked out by the Joker just kind of dicking with them a little bit. These comics can go to hell! Ignore the fact that these comics don't follow any kind of sequential flow that make any sense. Ignore all the plot holes that are never resolved and all the characters that are brought up and never mentioned again. After all of this, what did we actually achieve with this story? The Joker got his face back, but he's not the Joker anymore. He threatens to kill the Bat family, and he never even tries to. He leaves the story in one of the most cliched exits ever conceived, after losing his face again. And worst of all, the family disintegrates because... what? They got freaked out by what the Joker did? How? These kids have seen a lot worse than what the Joker has been subjecting them to. Is it because they don't trust Batman anymore? Why? Because he didn't tell them about the Joker card? They know that there's a lot that Batman doesn't tell them about, be it for their own protection, or the fact that he doesn't really know how to relate well to those he actually cares about. Why should this be the straw that broke their collective camels' backs? But you want to know what the worst part of all this is? I did this to myself. I was so hyped up for this, so hungry for the first really good Joker story for the New 52 to give us, that I just completely ignored how unimpressed I was by the rest of the reboot. And I suppose that's the biggest joke of them all, isn't it? Well, at this point there's really nothing left for me to do but just try to forget that this thing ever happened, and try to distract myself with some good comics. See you later.
Something like that happened to me, you know. I'm not exactly sure what it was. Sometimes I remember it one way, sometimes another. If I'm going to have a past, I prefer it to be multiple choice. My point is, I went crazy. When I saw what a black, awful joke the world was, I went crazy as a coot. I admit it. Why can't you? I mean, you're not unintelligent. You must see the reality of the situation. Do you know how many times we've come close to World War III over a flock of geese on a computer screen? Do you know what triggered the last World War? An argument over how many telegraph poles Germany owed its War Department creditors. Telegraph poles! It's all a joke. Everything anybody ever valued or struggled for, it's all a monstrous, demented gag. So why can't you see the funny side? Why aren't you laughing?